Hello everyone, and welcome to a new episode of LostinTranslationmon. This time we're covering Digimon Ghost Game Episode 12, Chain Letter. I'm May, and I'm joined by the lovely Chloe.
Hello.
So Quinn won't be joining us this week, but she'll be giving us thoughts when we cover Episode 13 in 2 weeks. And yes, I did say 2 weeks, and that's because there's no episode next week for the New Year break. So that's a planned thing that was announced in the episode guide listing a few weeks back. So that's nice to know. And I'm assuming that that's not going to be changing. And if it does change and we do have an episode, well, we have an episode. Mm-hmm. But as it stands, there'll be no episode released next week. So there'll be no coverage of an episode because we don't have future seeing powers at all.
Not yet, at least.
So that's which. Yeah, not yet. Not at this, not at the moment, but maybe, yeah, we're working on it. But anyway, so yes, no Quinn, and next week's episode will be not next week's episode, it'll be 2 weeks from now episode. So I guess with all that housekeeping out of the way, let's jump on to the synopsis. So we learn about a chain letter is spreading, which only is sent when it's deleted, and when it's sent and received, a Zasumon appears. And these Zasumon like to feed on water, and if they drink water, they grow and they grow and they grow, and they're basically spreading like weeds, and they're basically weeds. So the group sort of research this and try to work out what's causing it. And then Kiyoshiro, who is kind of angered by these Zasumon because not only is Jellymon scared of them, because she looks like water and she doesn't want to get eaten, Kiyoshiro is actually getting the blame because he received the email from Professor, he deleted it, and then it ends up being sent to the entire dorm. So both of Kiyoshiro and Jellymon want revenge on the Mon of the Week. So they go to a lake field, and Tesla Jellymon fights them, and Hiro wants to join in as well, because Angoramon isn't really doing much in the fight, because Angoramon can't evolve yet, so Hiro wants to help out.
No, he can't.
And Hiro isn't sure what form Gammamon will be able to evolve into, because he has the multiple forms, and Gammamon tells him not to hesitate, and he ends up evolving to a new form, Wezen Gammamon, who is basically a Triceratop with gun blades, which is kind of cool. I like him. And so they fight, but then an older-looking Zasumon shows up and apologizes and says that the others were just ones that got loose. And he looks very evil at the end, so I guess that's something to worry about, and we might have another reoccurring bad guy character to give us a heckin' big concern. So the episode ends. Now that we're done going over the synopsis for this week's episode, let's get down to discussion. So Chloe, what were your highlights this week?
So the plot didn't quite evolve exactly the way that I thought it would, but I do think that it went pretty well. I liked that it was just the, hey, you get punished for not spreading it. I do wish that we'd gotten a point to see where someone did forward it and see whether or not they were fine, because since we only saw people delete it, my brain is now just like, what happens?
Well, that was one of the YouTube titles, wasn't it? It was like they were scrolling through like a not YouTube, and it was like let's see what happens when I forward the email. Let's see what happens when I delete the email. And it was so I like how they're sort of going into that. Like, I know it's set in the future, but like this modern day aspect of how people handling weird things like this, and there are all these like chain letter challenges, which is just it's so great. I love the fact that they've adapted to how people would handle these kind of events, and it's just with YouTube challenges, and that was fun.
Yeah, and it sounds like about right, honestly. I could definitely see people doing that in real life. I feel like they already do that in real life.
Yeah, there's been a few of those weird sort of not like modern day folk tales when people are like, hey, let's try to this is the Bloody Mary challenge or what have you, or the Boogeyman challenge. So I can very much see people do that, and that was a nice, like, how people would handle it. I really appreciated that.
Admittedly, I wasn't super present for this online phenomena because I thought it was largely stupid, but like way back when there was that whole like killer clown scare, I feel like there were people posting videos of like, me and my homies confronting a killer clown, or, stuff like that.
Yeah.
I feel like it kind of gave me some of those vibes.
what I really appreciated in this episode was the fact that even though we had an evolution from Gammamon, it wasn't a hero episode. We had the cast doing various things to be important in the plot in their own way. We had Ruri basically leading an evacuation effort on that with the restaurant. She rescued her friends. We have Kiyoshiro feeling kind of like he was to blame for the spam getting out, so he has to correct his name by defeating the Mon of the Week. And we also have Jellymon, who is herself scared of the Mon of the Week because she looks like water. So we had each member of the cast participating and contributing their own take to the episode. And then, of course, we had only in the last, bit of the episode where Hiro's, I guess, almost struggling or coming to terms with the fact his Digimon can evolve to different forms, and he's not sure about how to apply the tactics depending on what evolution he has. He'll have the fireballs as Battle Gammamon, or he'll have the ability to fly as Chaos Gammamon. So it's him trying to apply tactics to this battle, and I really appreciated that. We got those 3 different views on the happenings of the episode, and yeah, I felt like it was a good balance between, okay, we have an evolution from Hero's Digimon, but that's only going to be in the last chunk, so we're going to have Ruri and Kiyoshiro contribute to the episode in their own way, and that was a nice way of doing it. I didn't feel like it was too weighted on any of the other characters. It felt a really nice balance between the 3. Yeah. And I really like that.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I still think that, well, I'll save that for lowlights, but yeah, I definitely liked the episode. It definitely didn't feel like it was weighted too heavily toward any particular character. Everyone seemed like they had at least, something they were doing for a not insignificant portion of the episode. It was pretty good. More minor moments that I really liked was Gammamon just up and curb stomping Hero's phone. That was pretty great.
Yeah, that was funny when he gets the email and he's just like, no, it gives me bad vibes. And the Gammamon only wants to save the world because the world gives him chocolate.
I still am pretty annoyed by that, if I'm being honest, but I won't go into that. I
liked it.
Right
I
now.
was he's he doesn't really care. He's smiling through the whole conversation. The Zassamon does not faze him at all.
Yeah.
But
I suppose
when he realizes that the world gives him chocolate, I found that really just... I mean, I can get why it's annoying because it is in every episode that he's motivated by chocolate.
Yeah.
But maybe I just vibe with it so much. I'm just yeah, what a mood.
I mean, that's fair.
I thought it was sweet. But yeah, I liked this episode. I like how they sort of pushed Jellymon into the episode because it felt more meaningful that we had 2 evolutions rather than it just being another, Gammamon evolves battle.
Yep.
It's really nice that we're actually using the fact that we have evolutions. Last episode, it was just another sort of, well, we don't have Angoramon evolving, so let's just have Gammamon evolving. And even though I loved last week's episode, it was hurt by the fact that we didn't have any other evolution from that. But in this episode, it felt nice that we had Jellymon evolve and did quite well in the battle. And even then, we also have Wes and Gammamon, and the 2 very much could have killed all of the Zassamon, and then the Elder showed up. And also, again, it's a nice take of, how are we going to end this episode? Well, what if they were basically like a flock of sheep that just got loose, and this, elder was in control of them? And that's sort of different to what we've had in previous weeks, and I'm glad we've moved away from, it's just a misunderstanding sort of thing. I felt like it was another interesting, different way to finish the episode. And I do have a lowlight about how the episode ended, but we'll get to that in lowlights.
Yeah. I've still got some more highlights.
Yeah. Continue, please.
Yeah. Well, so I it's something that you, I think, mentioned either last episode or a couple episodes ago, where it's just there a lot of times you find yourself thinking something and then the show immediately addresses it, and that's always really nice. And so that happened for me, actually, which is pretty nice, was because in this episode I was like, why is Jellymon so afraid of these people? And then they said, oh yeah, the Zassamon, survives by drinking water. And I was like, oh, okay, that explains it. And then immediately they were just like, oh, so that's why you're so afraid of them? Because you look like you're mostly made of water. So that was nice. Yeah,
I call that Appmoning it, because Appmon did it often where something weird would happen and I'd question it, and then they'd just answer it. Mm-hmm. And I was the same. I was like, okay, this is completely out of character for Jellymon. Like, at the start of the episode, I was kind of worried that this was just a plot convenience to make her either weakened in a battle or less important. And while it was like, it was relevant to the plot that she was scared, and it was so to make her feel like she wanted revenge.
Yeah, it added some flavor to her character because, like, and then I just love how she felt like she needed to make up for it later by being like way more gung-ho about it. Like that was nice. That added some depth, she's scared of things that can actually threaten her, but once she got the homies with her, then she'll start laying the smackdown or whatever. I also really loved Jellymon's, I've seen one this big moment. It was pretty excellent.
Yeah, and I love that it's it's not just something that's new to the world in general. It's something that has happened in the digital world before. Like, this is an ongoing problem. Mm-hmm. This is just how that they have presented in the human world. They have always just sort of been feeding on water and growing and becoming just big and being nuisances, basically. But the way that they've adapted, and this is something that Ghost Game, I guess, is kind of doing with their Mon of the Week, is that it's showing how Digimon have already existed in the digital world, but also how they're adapting to exist in the human world and the problems that brings. And I'm really enjoying that sort of aspect of it.
Mm-hmm. There was also a point where it was when the Zassamon were wrecking up the restaurant, and some of them knock over a big old thing of condiments, and one of them is just laying on the ground, letting condiments fall into its mouth. And I just want to inform Toei Animation that I never gave permission for my likeness to be used like that.
Yeah, it was a little bit like that.
Mm-hmm.
I also really like the animation in this episode.
Yeah, it struck me as better than some of the last ones, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot closer to that first episode standard, it felt like.
Yeah. I felt like there was probably a lot of stock animation used of just like the Zassamon because there were just hordes of them. You can just very much just copy and paste them.
Yeah.
But I felt like that it was fine the way they did it because it's spam, and they made the Zassamon look really gross.
Yeah. I also like how the episode was just kind of a lot of here's how exponential growth works. Cough, cough. Also, this is how a pandemic works. But yeah. I also the whole reverse Hydra thing that they were doing was pretty interesting. Grouping up as they take more damage as opposed to getting split apart into. Yeah. That was pretty neat.
Oh yeah, that was nice to see. You're right. It's often seen that you cut off something and then it just becomes its own entity, but no, they were combining
the slime
to heal
divides or whatever.
themselves.
But so that was kind of interesting. And then this episode also contained the thus far one and only time that I've actually liked one of those flashes of inspiration followed by a technique name, because when Kiyoshiro does it, you can tell that he's just leaning into it so hard. He looks like he's getting a headache, and he's like, oh, and then says the attack. It was just the most chuny. He was chunying it up, and it was phenomenal.
I mean, I on that topic, actually, I felt like it was almost like they listened to what we said last episode because they didn't have the flashes of inspiration for every attack. Because we just had them calling out the attack names as they ran alongside them without the extra animation, and then we only had it for Kyo when he was doing that attack, and it just felt like they were like, okay, we'll play it down, but we'll do it really extra when we do it.
And I think they've been working towards that for a while, because even last week they had a couple of them at least that didn't have the splash screen effect.
That's how Digimon does it. Like with the card slash in Tamers, they would introduce it and they would just swipe it every time they would show the full animation. But later on, they start to phase that out, and they only have maybe one card slash an episode, and it's usually the focal point of the episode gets the card slash, and then everything else is just like a card slash, and it's a quick just not non-animated, it's just kind of on the side. So that is something that wouldn't surprise me if they go to only using that flash of inspiration.
I mean, if nothing else, if they keep moving in that direction, they'll get 30 extra seconds an episode.
And this series needs the
It really
the extra
needs the
seconds.
time, yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, I like this episode. Like, I liked it after watching it, but I think after talking about it, I like it more and more.
Okay.
Like, it was just a fun episode. Like, I liked it, and it just had everything that a Ghost Game episode has that I like, and it just had a combination of all that. Do we have any other highlights?
I think I've pretty much hit my whole list of highlights.
Okay, on to lowlights. I'm going to be real boring and say the lowlight that I have literally every episode, which is, wow, they go to their ending quickly and it's quickly resolved in about 2 seconds, very suddenly. But, I mean, in this episode, I found that it kind of made sense that we had the Elder show up just at the very end, randomly, just as Wes and Gammamon was going to kill the Zasomon. Like, that was, I mean, at least it showed up because it didn't want the Zasomon to die, but it very much felt like it was over incredibly quickly, and that's something that is not unique to this episode. It's something that I mention every week, is that the episodes all have a really strong start and a pretty strong middle, but then as soon as they get to actually fighting the Mon of the Week, it ends very quickly. They get, like, the battle, and then the battle just ends very suddenly, and we get, like, a very, very small resolution. There's only a few seconds in explanation, and then the end of the episode is just Angoramon saying something vague. And I honestly feel like, and yes, I do say this every episode, I am broken record me, but each episode would be so much better if it was 40 minutes in length, because just that extra, even if it was just like 35 minutes or 30 minutes, just a little bit longer to do the battle. And that's something that I don't often say for Digimon. Usually I say, wow, they could have set up this battle better. Why was the battle like 10 minutes in length? It could have been 2 minutes in length. So this is like the opposite of what I say for every other episode of Digimon. Well, except for Ghost Game, obviously. But I felt like the setup was so good, and then the resolution and the battle and the climax of the episode just happened so quickly and was cut off so short. I really think it's a problem that Ghost Game has, and it's the problem with the 20-minute time format runtime. It just happens so quickly, and it just feels like the payoff's not worth the build up is so good, and then the payoff just sort of ends. And it's a shame, because the build up and the exploring and, you know, the information gathering parts of the episode, those are all really good. And I don't want them to cut those bits shorter, because if they were any shorter, I feel like they wouldn't get the point across as well, and they wouldn't do it as well. So I can't think of anything else that they can remove except for just add in more time to the episode, which is not possible because they've been allocated a specific runtime and in this specific time format.
Yeah.
So I don't feel like that's going to happen anytime soon.
Yeah. Well, to
really
mix
wish.
metaphors a little, like, you know, even a broken record is right twice a day. Like, you're very not wrong.
Yeah.
These are problems that I wish that they were doing something about. I also wish it could be a little bit longer.
Yeah, like, it just, I mean, I feel like this has happened to most episodes in Ghost Game that just felt too short. Which is definitely, it's definitely a good thing, a good sign if I'm saying, hey, I want more time on this episode. In some episodes of Colon, it was just like, okay, but why wasn't this episode and this episode combined into one episode? Why were they two separate episodes? So it's like the anti-Adventure Colon in the way that it's enjoyable, but they really could use with longer episodes.
I've got a little more flavor to add to the lowlights.
Oh, yep, keep on going.
Yeah, so the first thing that jumped out to me was that I found it, like, extremely unrealistic that all the students would just automatically blame the dorm leader. Because, like, it's the near future. They should know enough that just because it, you know, came from someone's, like, you know, Facebook account or whatever, doesn't mean that they sent it. It probably means that someone, you know, got their info, or there's a, you know, a hack of some sort or whatever. So it just felt weird to me that they instantly turned on Kiyoshiro. It was like, oh, this must be his fault. Yeah, that seems like something he'd do. And I was like, y'all haven't been looking at the news? You don't know that this is happening all over the place? You think that Kiyoshiro did this, really? So that part struck me as a little unrealistic.
Oh, see, I liked that. Like, I like how the characters went like, yeah, that sounds like something he'd do. Like, it's just like, all right, I guess he did put all those talismans up, so I guess maybe he could do something like this, or he would retweet. He would forward it on out of fear. Like, I feel like it's not completely impossible that he would do stuff like that. So I kind of liked that sort of aspect. So I didn't have a problem with that at all, but I can see what you mean. Like, people shouldn't jump to conclusions that it was him when we have viruses and hackers, but I think it's because it was like a fear thing, like, and Kiyoshiro is known to be quite scared of things and to be putting talisman on things to ward off bad guys. Like,
I mean, I guess I certainly get it. I just, like, I don't remember exactly how many people there were present at the thing, but I feel like, if I had been there and I'd been in the moment, I would have been like, wait, no, what? No, really? Come on. Like, that's not reasonable. There's, sure, you might have sent it to us, but it's not like Kiyoshiro is engineering this whole thing. I don't know. I just got the impression that they were blaming him for, like, everything going on. And that might just be my misinterpretation, but...
I mean, it could just... I know we are all team Kiyoshiro on this podcast,
highly.
But it could just mean that people just don't like him.
No way. How dare they?
I can imagine, like, maybe he's not... I mean, he's popular with us on the internet, but maybe amongst his peers he's not particularly popular.
Yeah, I mean, I guess he kind of made a whole show of, at the very beginning of the series, just running around and, like, shoving talismans at everyone, so they're probably a little off-put by him. So, I mean, I can get where they're coming from. I get it. It just bugged me.
He's this huge, like, little otaku with, like, he's a toonie, and he just... he came back to Japan because of anime. Like, I love him, but I can see why he wouldn't be probably the most popular. So I kind of get that.
I suppose so.
Yeah, do you have any other lowlights?
Yes.
I don't really have... Oh, good. Please
Yeah,
go
I've got, like, 5 others.
Oh, please, go ahead.
But a couple of them are going to be pretty quick here, because, like I mentioned earlier, I'm still so over Gammamon just doing everything for chocolate. Like, I really liked the one episode where, Gammamon seemed concerned about Hiro because he was having these weird time skips. Like, yeah, if Gammamon is Hiro's little brother, then I feel like, little brother should be concerned for big brother. But most of the time he's just like, screw it, I'm just here for the chocolate, and that just annoys me. I also kind of touched on it earlier, but I am pretty sad we didn't get, a grandma saying just like, you'll be fine if you just forward it, or something like that. Because like I said earlier, I can't help but wonder what happens if you did forward it, and I'm glad they at least have like a call to that in the YouTube videos that we kind of get a peek at, but I wish we got something on screen about it. Yeah.
Clickbait works. I was interested in non-real YouTube videos with clickbait on them.
Yeah, for real. Like, I want to know, like, what happens if they forward it? What happens if they just don't open it? What happens if they read it but don't forward it, but also don't delete it? Like, I need to know.
But, like, I mean, and this is another problem that we get from...
And there's just not enough time to explore, yeah.
Because if we had, like, an extra 10 minutes on this, we could have an extra 5 minutes for the battle, and then an extra few minutes just having... Maybe it's Hiro's friend, and he ends up forwarding it because he's such, like, a little silly little demon man. And he ends up, like, I don't know, being immune to the Zasumon, or he gets a Zasumon as his Digimon, and then he becomes, like, the fourth kid, except he has Zasumon.
I've got some thoughts that I will need to be reminded of later when we're doing the next episode thing, because I have a theory that is going to be big if true, but to continue my lowlights in the meantime here, I am pretty pissed that they gave Hiro a third evolution before Rui and Angoramon get one. Like, I didn't expect a new evolution at all this episode, and all that happened after this one was like 30 seconds of like just a little montage while Wezengammamon just literally didn't even move, and we shook the screen around a bunch and made some smoke and explosions until someone said, please stop. And like, I get that the evolution made sense, since like Hiro seemed like conflicted and stressed when about to do the evolution, which I guess literally brought out the big guns, but like... Come on, y'all really gonna make Rui be the last one to get an Evo? Like, I don't mind that she's being the last because someone has to, but like you're gonna let Hiro get a fourth serving before Rui's gotten a second? It just it bugs me.
Yeah, I kind of get what you mean, but I do understand that they're trying to get all these evolutions out
And
Yep.
it's maybe not a fair comparison to make, but they've teased a fourth like shadow evolution with Gamamon since the first episode. If they're not gonna give us an Angoramon evolution yet, could they at least start dropping some crumbs for us? But if we're not gonna have all of them have a scary shadow evolution, then it's probably not fair to compare with the only person who's gonna get a scary shadow evolution foreshadowed. So but I feel like it wouldn't have to be foreshadowed that way. It could be done other ways.
Yeah, I feel like they can't just, because otherwise they would have all of the Gamamon evolutions just sort of combined together in like a bunch of episodes, and then it'd be like 3 episodes in a row of hero episodes. And I feel like I would be more annoyed at that than if we just had them spaced out in between the evolutions. So I don't particularly mind, because they are kind of sandwiched between the other characters getting their own focus and their own episodes. And at least this episode still, as I said at the start, like, it didn't feel like that much of a hero episode. It's still focused on the rest of the cast. So I'm not too like that. That's why it's not really a highlight. It's not really a low light for me. It's just something that I think could have been way, way worse if it was just like Gamamon Evolution episode followed by another Gamamon Evolution episode followed by another Gamamon Evolution episode followed by another Gamamon Evolution episode.
You're not wrong.
At least this way it's spaced out.
Yeah.
We've had like episodes that focus around other characters. We've had evolution episodes. So to me, it's not too bad, because I guess I've seen worse in Digimon before, where we've just had the one character is the focus for a chunk of episodes.
Well, see, that's what I'm here for, is to raise everyone's standards here by reminding you that Digimon sucks sometimes.
Yeah, like, I wonder how much I'd be enjoying Ghost Game if Adventure Colon was fantastic. If a Ghost Game would just be, it's okay, or if it would still be fantastic, or if it wouldn't be that good. It might be just because Colon I didn't enjoy Colon particularly much, and I had a few problems with it. And I feel like in comparison, Ghost Game is just so much more fun, and I'm really enjoying it. So yeah, my only lowlight is the lowlight that I have every week, which is just, why is it so, each episode's so short, but I don't know how they're running out of time, because no other Digimon series has felt like an episode has gone too quickly.
They're running out of time because they're taking the time to set up an interesting premise, which I feel like, at least for what little I saw of Adventure Colon, they just didn't bother with.
Yeah, it didn't. Or just sort of, it had like a quick info dump of like a few minutes, but nothing else was happening during this time. It was just all of the exposition at once instead of slowly discovering it.
Yeah.
And that was kind of annoying. In Ghost Game, and I guess it's because this series is episodic. Like, every episode is kind of almost self-contained. Like, every episode will have, like, a start, a middle, and an end, and it's more or less resolved at the end of the episode. There's no, not many two-parters. So I guess that is a negative of the show, that they can't...
We've done one two-parter. We had the Clockmon resolution.
Yeah, but...
And I assume we're going to,
I guess
in the future, have a Weedmon resolution, and I'm going to forget the name of the one who was erasing people's photos.
Oh, Dracomon.
Yes, thank you. I feel like we're going to have...
He wasn't erasing people's photos. He was erasing people's, he was erasing them Ruri's via body their photos, parts.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was still,
Yeah, we've got a couple of threads dangling. Same with this one. Yeah, on the note of partially just a lack of time thing, I'm kind of bummed that we got absolutely no resolution as to are people going to remember that Digimon exist next week? Like, they wrecked up a city and they got a lot of people. We saw some people get bitten. Is that dude just gonna forget that he got bitten?
Yeah.
Or
see, that's...
I'm tempted to... I'm betting that they're just going to say, if they give any justification at all, it's going to be oh, no, you see... No, we didn't use the word Digimon, so those were hologram ghosts.
Well, they all said, the people who were fighting back against the Zasumon, they're all like, hologram ghosts.
Yeah.
So at least they were kind of acknowledging it. But yeah, it was a milestone in the way that this is the first time a hologram ghost attack has been widely spread and widely seen.
I feel like just can't really be ignored or brushed under the, rug or anything like that.
No, I feel like this might be a turning point in that people, like, hologram ghosts become less, and I'm probably going to eat my words here, but hologram ghosts become more of, like, a real-life threat rather than just a rumor that people disregard. Like, this is something that a lot of people saw and a lot of people experienced, and all of those people would know someone, and if it's just forwarded out to, depending on who this professor knows that had the spam email. And also, does that someone, like, destroy the person at the start? I feel like we need to check on that professor. Is he okay?
Yeah, well, right, and I guess we didn't really get any resolution to that either, but, I'm gonna assume that since it's a kid's show, the Zassimon magically returned the water to everybody.
Yeah, because people are, like, what, 90% water or something?
Something big.
This episode could have gone, like, really horrifying if, like, they just started, like, Zassimon started kissing someone and just, like, inhaled all their water and just horrifying.
Yeah.
Though, I mean, that's kind of what happened to the professor, but that could have gone really horrifying.
Yeah. Oh, and actually, to spoil a close to 5-year-old game, so if you haven't played Horizon Zero Dawn and really care about the story, skip ahead a couple minutes. But the whole exponential growth leading to apocalypse scenario from this episode, where they're like, oh yeah, they'll just drink all the water and become unstoppable, is like extremely similar to the whole robot plague in Horizon Zero Dawn. It's like the only real difference is that it was powered by water as opposed to just biomass, and that we had a happy ending in this one because it was all just a misunderstanding asterisk.
Yeah.
So that was kind of neat, and I mainly just noticed it because I'd been playing a lot of Horizon Zero Dawn again lately because it's a very fun game.
Yeah, that's fair. I've watched Brady play it, but we haven't, like, when I say we haven't finished it, I mean he hasn't finished it, but I like watching him play games. It's fun for me. But but I like the way the game looked, and geez, is that already 5 years old? Okay.
It was like a 2017,
Time is weird.
Right.
But in any case, do we have any other lowlines?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
This is the last one, though, which is that I'm a little exasperated to see that we're doing we're letting the bad guy leave because it was all a misunderstanding, but it's not as bad as it could be because I feel like that was hinted heavily enough to the point of just having said it that, there's something else going on here, and the elder Zassimon is just kind of playing them right now. So yeah, I'm hoping that there'll be another recurring villain for us.
But it wasn't a misunderstanding in the same way that we had Mummymon misunderstanding that people die when they are killed, or Pumpkinmon not knowing how to make friends. Like, it wasn't the same misunderstanding there. It was just like an accident, more like, oh no, my Zassimon flock got away from me and caused problems.
Like, I guess, I don't know. I mean, he tried to, like, elicit the same sort of sympathy where he was like, oh, I did it because I was lonely and just wanted to have someone to talk to. Yeah, and but, like, then it just got out of hand. And, clearly he's just spewing out his ass, but...
Oh, look, if we didn't have, like, that very obvious, like, look of I'm actually a bad guy, that would have been a huge negative for me. I would not have enjoyed it because I would have felt like it was just, like, clearly pulled out of absolutely nowhere. Like, oh, I was, checks notes lonely. It feels like it could have just been the writers being completely lazy and looking at the other episode, like, oh, well, that worked with the Pumpkinmon episode.
Right, exactly.
But because Zassimon is actually evil... It's like, it's almost like
I'm able to forgive them
the
for
events.
It. Yeah. And he was just like, all according to Keikaku, and then, now I'm going to save my peons so that we can store up our strength and strike later or whatever.
And look, I'm going to grasp at, like, far too many straws that will fit in my tiny little hands, but what if Zassimon has been watching and he stole that from the Pumpkinmon episode? Like, he saw Pumpkinmon and was just like, well, that worked for him. Oh, I was, checks notes, lonely. Like, if, like, that could be fun. I don't think that's the case because that seems a little too good, but I said that a lot in Appmon and it ended up being too good.
That's fair.
And or on the reverse end, I was always saying, hey, that sounds too good for Adventure Colon, and then they'd do it, but they'd do it in the worst possible way.
Yeah.
So either way, but in any case, no, we can definitely we can go places with that, and I'm so glad, even if like it was like a plot twist like 10 episodes from now that Zassamon was evil and we didn't get that look of evil, I would have not enjoyed this episode as much had we not had that really obvious, like, but I'm actually evil, blah, blah, blah.
They slap you in the face with it like 3 times, and I feel like they could have gotten away with just doing it once, but, you know, I'm glad that we at least had that rather than just be left hanging.
Because otherwise it would have just been such a boring wrap-up of...
Yeah, I would have hated this episode if that had been played straight.
Me too, like... And again, it would have fallen under my low light of just they don't have enough time because, like, I would have argued, they would have had more time to explain a better reason other than just like, I was lonely, misunderstanding, yada, yada, yada. Like, that would have also fallen under that low light. But no, it was actually a look of suspicion. That makes me want to watch more. And again, another bad guy. We've got Dracomon on the loose and now we've got Zassamon on the loose. So that's kind of cool.
It's like Sith, there's always one master and one apprentice or something. I don't know. Don't Star Wars at me, please. Anyone who's listening to this.
I was about to, because like I don't know much about Star Wars, but my favorite theory is that Jar Jar Binks is actually a Sith Lord.
Yeah, I really like that one.
And I've seen like a compilation. I think there's like a compilation called like Jar Jar Binks not totally being a Sith Lord for 10 minutes, and it's just a compilation of him just like being really suspicious.
Yep.
It's perfect. But yeah, that's the extent of my Sith Lord knowledge, is that Jar Jar Binks is one. But anyway, moving on, what were our ratings for this week's episode?
Did we already do favorite character?
We
do. We normally do
you're
them
right.
in the right order?
We do favorite character first.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
That's the
my
order
favorite
I put
character.
in my notes, but I was like, I'm probably wrong.
No, you're right. Always call me out, because I would have forgotten to mention that Kiyoshiro is my favorite character again.
Hey, how about that? Me too.
Well, to be fair, I was kind of like, Kiyoshiro is one of the few valid choices, as great as this episode was, but also I guess Jellymon could have been, but I feel like I'm mainly choosing Kiyoshiro or Jellymon in this season, and that is completely valid.
Yeah, that's fine, honestly.
Now we can get onto the rating, which I gave it a 4. I feel like it's almost a 4.5, because I feel like it's almost as good as the Halloween episode, but I felt like the Halloween episode used its time better. Like, it felt more complete. It didn't feel like, but what if we had somewhere else to go at the end? Like, if they just had a bit of explanation there or a bit more time in the battle. So I'm just going to give it a 4, but I definitely enjoyed this episode, even though it does have the problem of being very short. Chloe, what are you giving this?
I need to really quickly check and make sure that I'm not putting this in a... which episode was Halloween episode?
Halloween was episode 4, and you gave it a 4.5.
Okay. So I think I'm going to surprise you here.
4.5.
I think I'm going to surprise you here, because I had way more lowlights, but despite all that, like, I actually quite liked this episode, and I initially was going to give it a 4.5. I wanted to make sure that I didn't put it as higher than the Halloween episode, because I do think I liked that one better overall, but I'll put it on the same tier, but put it below it in my ranking, I think.
Okay, that's basically where I have mine as well, so I guess that also brings me to my next question, is ranking, and that means that you would put it in just below episode 4, so you'd put it in 4th place.
Yep.
That's fair. I've put mine directly under episode 4 as well, but I've liked a few episodes since, so mine's in 5th place. So wait, no, that's not 5th place, that's 6th place. My eyes are weird. So I've put it in 6th place, but also just under episode 4.
Isn't that
because I really
7th place?
did like episode 4. No, 6th place.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Wait, you want it under number 4, though, right?
Yeah, I'm putting it under number 4.
Yeah,
so
that's
6th place.
Oh, I'm looking at Quinn's column. Sorry.
Oh, yeah, that happens. No, it's, yeah, so you've got it in 4th place, and I've got it in 6th place, and Quinn will put it in somethingth place,
Yeah.
but we'll ask her when she watches it.
Stay tuned to find out next time.
Stay tuned. So, for overall, we can't do overall because we don't have Quinn's ranking of it, but I guess just on the two of our opinions,
It's off to
it
a
would
promising
be
start.
under... Yeah, it would be under episode 4, which would be in 5th place. But then Quinn's might change it depending on...
Mm-hmm.
She might disagree with us and say that it's the worst episode, and then...
I hope she does.
I guess it depends. Yeah, I mean, that'd be interesting discussion. Yeah. It's always good. Like, I think we've only disagreed once this season, though, and that was for episode 10, which I gave a 5 to, and y'all both gave 2s. Yep. So it's good that we can disagree, but I'm looking forward to hearing Quinn's thoughts on this episode, because you did surprise me that you gave it a 4.5, because you did have very valid lowlights, but I guess the highlights outshone the lowlights.
It was just a fun episode, you know. I had a good time watching it. Maybe I was just in, like, you know, a better mood than I was when watching the other episodes, but like the things that were lowlights just didn't bother me that much versus some of the other weeks, and the stuff that was good enough that I was happy to give it a 4.5.
Now that we're done discussing the episode, let's do some Postmon, pondering, and predictions. So first up, we have our Postmon Pat questions and comments from the episode 11 podcast on YouTube. So first up, we have Desda, who says that they want to defend the... Actually, I'm going to read this from the bottom, because a lot of people came in to defend Angoramon this week, and it would make no sense if people are addressing other people's comments. We'll start from the start rather than starting from the latest. So first up, we have Azael, who says that they're starting to worry about Ghost Game. The plot advances slowly, and not having an evolution in episode 11 and seeing the preview for episode 12 means we won't have the cast achieve their champion forms before episode 14 at least. They're not expecting them to actually advance the plot before achieving them. They're also saying that it's getting too repetitive to see Monster of the Week, which is misunderstood, fighting it, and then the Mon of the Week just walks away after some dumb talk. And hopefully episode 12 kind of changes their opinion, because it does. I mean, it does do a talk, but it certainly
does the thing, but it has the implication that there's, you know, more to it than that.
But yeah, there's still no Angoramon evolution, though.
Still no Angoramon evolution.
Yeah. Speaking of Angoramon, next we have Tassie, who is the first Angoramon defender, who says they're defending Angoramon because they don't think he ghosted Ruri. And they say that the first time he left was during the night and Ruri was sleeping, though she woke up, but that's besides the point. The second time he left, he told her he would have to go and would be busy that day and had plans. Ghosting is just disappearing without explanation or telling anyone for an extended period of time. Also, Angoramon's not obligated to tell his plans. Angoramon and Ruri are basically just roommates bordering on friends, and this episode is in itself just an evolution of their friendship. Before this, they don't really seem necessarily that close. They also say that they think that it might have been assumed that because they're partners, they suddenly have to be really close, and they prefer how gradual this has been, but they also like how Angoramon has his own life and friends, just like Ruri does. In fact, they think Ruri and Angora are fairly similar in a lot of ways. And yeah, I totally agree. I don't think I should have defended Angoramon in the last episode a little bit more, but yeah, it is a very much an assumption that we make that the human and their partner Digimon are super tight-knit and super close, and they're super friendly. And Digimon's only touched on, like, them not being so, a very small handful of times. The original adventure did with Biomon and Sora, how Biomon was very lovey, and Sora was like, hey, we just met, why are you trying to cuddle up to me, you weird giant pink bird? Like, it's very much only done a few times where they aren't immediately super close. They're always instantly like, oh, we're best friends. So that's a very good point, that why should we believe that Angoramon and Ruri would share everything with each other? They literally just met, like, a few days ago. So it does have that feel. Oh, I guess it's been a few months, because it's been Halloween. But in any case, they've just sort of met. Why should they be friends? So that's very valid.
The answer that I will give to that is because we already know that Angoramon knew that it was causing Ruri some anxiety, and he could have just said, hey, don't worry, I'm just hanging out with friends.
Yeah, no, that would have made sense. Next, we have Lioli, who actually says something that I was... Last week's episode, I was reminded by something, but I couldn't quite put my finger on why the the plot point of, big sword, just slice lemons. Like, that felt very familiar, but I didn't say anything because I wasn't sure what it reminded me of or if I was just making it up. Mm-hmm. But Lioli points out that the resolution reminds them of how in the Lilo and Stitch cartoon, the Mon of the Week would often be given something to do with their powers or something to get rid of all the energy that they had. Mm-hmm. And that was something I really enjoyed.
You're extremely right, and I just realized, wow. I watched that a lot like, as a kid. That's wild.
I used to love that show, but every week it was just like, oh, here is the Mon of the Week. The Mon of the Week has too much electricity. Oh, we'll need electricity for the lighthouse. Mm-hmm. This one is really good at sandwiches, but he has all the powers of Stitch, but he's really good at making sandwiches, so he just makes sandwiches, which is really cute. And they were just really nice, it was sort of resolutions where it was a solution, like, hey, you have this, don't worry, we need this. And I really appreciated that. But yeah, very much so, that is like that.
I hadn't thought of that show in about a decade. Thanks for the little blast from the past there, commenter.
Yeah, no, appreciated. Next we have TGS, who says 4 out of 5, kind of filler, but they really liked how Angoramon and Ruri had a character interaction. They think the core 6 have just been fun characters, and they also like the nod to Repamon lore about their tails. Both characters and nods to Digilore have been a highlight of Ghost Game to them so far. And I agree. I do like how they're handling Mon of the Week. It's not just like, oh, Mon of the Week, this is the Digimon. They're sort of going into a little bit more. I really appreciate that. Next, we have Andrew, who says that one thing they have to say is that we all expected Angoramon to evolve, and adding the previews, we can't ever know what to expect in an episode. Like, one episode can seem normal, but that can change in a second, like in the Systemon Cart ep with the Uber Tailmon. Mm-hmm. Then we have them saying, but still people have short patience for anything plot to happen, so better the big bad shadow to appear, second in command, minion to start to appear, even a message from Hollow Dad to be a start. And yeah, I get that. I'm just, I don't mind too much the way that we're going. Like, we don't know how many episodes are in this season. It could be 50 episodes. It could be more than that. It could be less than that. I don't know. Mm-hmm. So I'm not really sort of waiting for anything. Having said that, I'd much rather them keep the big bad a secret for now, on the basis that in other series we don't really know the big bad until the last 4 episodes anyway.
Except for Atmon.
So except for Atmon, which is like episode 1, this is the bad guy. Mm-hmm. Episode 50, this is the bad guy. It's nice when the bad guy's the same. Yeah. And yeah, I felt like that's a much better way of doing it. If we don't necessarily need to have a bad guy in the first 10 episodes, because in Digimon, except for Atmon, the bad guy doesn't really show up into the last chunk anyway, so it's fine.
I mean, just because it's standard doesn't mean it's good. I wish they would give us some more hints about what's going on here so I can know whether or not we're going to have overarching story, because I'm kind of beginning to resign myself to the fact that, okay, yeah, they're leaning into the episodic, and it's just going to kind of be, at the end of the day, everything goes back to just the way it was.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know.
We have Twilord, who says that they have some thoughts about Witchenly, which is another Bandai property. It's where Wizarmon is from, and they really want a Digimon Universe Witchenly to go alongside Digimon Universe Apply Monsters and build that sort of multiverse. And yeah, I agree. I wish we had more information about Witchenly in Digimon, because there's actually a few Digimon now who we know come from the Witchenly universe, which is really interesting. But in any case, next we have Dedicated Gazi, who says they love how Bokumon is the professor in the series. And say what we will about Frontier, they really love the callback to Bokumon is the bookkeeper who explains the digital world idea that started there. And yeah, completely agree, Bokumon is the best thing from Frontier for me, so I very much appreciate that we get Bokumon in this series again. And also, Bokumon's in the manga that's currently being published, which is Digimon Dreamers, and I've been translating that on YouTube if y'all are interested. But Bokumon basically summons the human to the digital world to help the Digimon evolve. It's really cute. Next, we have Geozaga, who says they always saw the moments when the attack name appears in their head and they call the names, and it's like they're in sync with each other and it boosts their attack compared to what they would do normally. And yeah, I like the little blast of inspiration as well. I'm a big fan of it. It does make them feel like they're more in sync, and it just makes them feel like the humans are participating more.
Yeah.
Next, we have Dash, who wants to defend Angoramon. He leaves during the night where he thinks that Rui's asleep, and when she asks, he just says he's being busy. And then we have Ruri inviting Hiro to the cafe, and once her friends come, she literally leaves Hiro there. So she could have called instead, and it could have been an email. It's not perfect, but it does show both sides being wrong.
Oh, yeah.
And I agree with that.
Both sides were wrong, but I still think that Angoramon was more wrong.
No, I feel like both. I know I'm on Angoramon's sides here. Both could have been more communicative, but he doesn't really owe much of an explanation to Ruri because they're kind of not. At the end of the episode, they're closer at least. Yeah. Next, we have Black Knightmon, who says the fight scene in the episode was amazing. They're super surprised. They like how the kids call out the attacks and the Digimon executed it. The evolutions are all pretty basic, to be honest. And yeah, I get that. Next, we have Narumi, who says they watched the episode after hearing the podcast, and they still think the episode is a 5 out of 5 for them. They liked the way they developed Ruri and Angoramon's bond and the resolution of the Digimon of the Week. They did expect Angoramon to evolve, but they're glad that did not happen, because it would not feel deserved. Just a rough solution to beat the Repamon. They also think that Angoramon could not beat Repamon by himself without evolving, because Repamon would dodge all of Angoramon's attacks, because Angoramon isn't very fast. So having Chaos Gamamon to help Angoramon is a better solution than just rushing on with Angoramon's evolution. They're curious about Ruri's backstory because it seems like she has a conflict with herself and trust issues because she's felt hurt with Angoramon was hiding a secret from her. And yeah, I get that. I mean, I gave the episode a 5 out of 5 too. I think it was also my favourite. So I'm glad that I'm not the only one who was like, yes, last episode, really good. And then lastly, finally, we'll get on to Destars, who also says that he feels the need to defend the bunny as well. They say that although one could bring up the idea that the kids have been kind to Digimon and Angoramon can vouch for them, we don't really know how they would take in the information that there's all these Digimon hanging out, and if they would shun him because of his affiliation. He also tries to sneak off whenever Ruri is sleeping, and when that doesn't work, he confesses that he's busy. Ruri is starting to show that she has a bit of a self-serving attitude with what she demands from others, but never gives anything back in return. And yeah, I kind of agree, especially with how she treated Hiro, like she invited Hiro out for literally just her to complain, and then she leaves. Like, that's still, like, a kind of annoying thing.
That's certainly a valid point there, yeah. You're not wrong.
Yeah, so that's all we have for Postmon Pat this week. What are your thoughts about the series so far?
I'm still on board for it. I liked this episode, and it's got me a little more hopeful. But yeah, like I was saying, I guess I'm perhaps resigning myself to the fact that we're just more episodic than we traditionally are, and we might not have much in the way of long, overarching story. So I hope that I'm incorrect about that. But if I am incorrect about it, I hope that we get some more interesting stories. Because yeah, I'm not really sure what all they could keep doing without adding some overarching plot to keep me interested just episode to episode, you know?
Yeah.
At least not through however long it lasts if it ends up running, 60 plus episodes.
Yeah, still my thoughts about the series so far are still very much hurt by each episode. Why is it 20 minutes long? And I won't go on to that too much because I've already really, really dug in that point. But it just... my gosh, each episode could be so much better if we had a little bit more time. Just a little bit.
Yep.
But I don't really have any other thoughts other than that. I'm still excited for more episodes, especially because we have a bad guy.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to next week's episode. Looks interesting.
Yeah, me too. It's called Executioner. And this preview, while all the previews for episodes of Ghost Game have been fairly vague, this one really takes the cake. I'm not sure if I just wasn't paying attention because I was too busy, organising my notes, or if no information was given to us.
Oh, no, it looked like it was almost spelling it out for me.
Oh, really?
Well, maybe not, I guess it depends on what you would qualify as, specific information. I don't know. I feel like we got a pretty overarching, or at least we got a good, introduction to the conflict, I guess. So here's my ally. Well, I guess now that I think about it, that's pretty much what all the other ones have done too. So maybe I'm just wrong.
Yeah. Oh, no, I got to the point of, what's sort of happening, but information as in, I don't think we really saw what Digimon is happening next week. We don't know if there's an evolution. It was very
do you want my
vague.
Theory about that?
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
It's not a big bad Digimon next week. What if we have a Digimon hunter?
Oh, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
That sounds so good, though.
Because that was definitely a physical knife that dropped to the ground, and I know that means basically nothing because they can just make it as physical or incorporeal as they want, but, still. That's my wild prediction that I'm running with. It's a human hunting the Digimon. It's going to be someone that one of the kids knows. And the horror of this episode is realizing that someone close to you could actually be like a violent person without you having any idea.
Yeah, I mean, that could be pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. Or if we get a nothing personnel kiddo Digimon, then that's also fine.
Yeah, they definitely could go some interesting ways with this.
Mm-hmm. Also, it looked like in the preview
yep.
that we finally actually like definitively had a Digimon die, so that's kind of neat. I'm hoping it's not another like its soul is actually trapped in the blade scenario, or like oh no, you see this is the knife that we use to teleport back to the digital world, LOL sort of scenario.
Yeah, I'm especially with the title of Executioner. Like, I hope there's something that's
it sounds like we'll have
more
stakes.
Yeah, I hope there's some actual real violence. At the moment, it feels pretty light in violence.
What a sentence to say, yeah.
Yeah, but it's
just craving some violence.
Oh yeah, just craving that big violence energy. Mm-hmm. So yeah, no, that's an interesting thought. I'm hoping that we get a little bit of stakes. Like, it's not just because every other episode has been like, oh, as soon as we're just about to kill the Mon of the Week, something happens, or like it says, hey, I'm actually misunderstood.
Mm-hmm. I want to know who has the anti-gun blade, which is actually a sniper that shoots knives.
We always do gun blades, but we never do blade guns.
But now we are, presumably.
Yeah.
You have a laser sight and then a knife getting launched.
I
respect
very cool.
the innovation.
It's like someone heard about a bayonet and then just misunderstood the point.
Yep.
But in any case, so that's our thoughts. Do we have any miscellaneous thoughts about the series or this episode?
Nothing that I hadn't already said, I think.
I like Tesla Jellymon more and more every week.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like Tesla Jellymon's fight scene this week. It was good. I honestly wish that Tesla Jellymon had just kind of continued to wreck face instead of having our third Gamamon evolution, but it goes.
That could have been cool. Yeah, so it goes, so it is, and so it does. Alright everyone, so thanks for joining us this time. Obviously, as I mentioned, episode 13 is in 2 weeks, not 1 week, so just be wary of that. So episode 13, as you mentioned, is called Executioner, so that's exciting, and it's a shame we have to wait a week, but it'll be nice to have a break. But in any case, link dump's linked in the description, and so is our Redbubble. You can contact us and stay updated, so you can email us at LostinTranslationmon@gmail.com, or you can comment on this episode on our website, which is LostinTranslationmon.com, or, of course, on the episode on YouTube, which is where I read out the comments for Postmon Pat. You can also follow us at TranslationMon on Twitter, and you can follow us on LostinTranslationmon on Tumblr, Facebook, Instagram, and, of course, YouTube. I'm at Digimon_hero on TikTok, and that's spelled HIRO, and I stream on twitch.tv/translationmon. Yep, still haven't updated it to be correctly spelt on my segment guide, but it is correctly spelt on the actual account, and that's what matters. So it's twitch.tv/translationmon. And of course, you can chat with us on the Lost in Translation Mon Discord server. I'm adding more and more channels every day because we've got more people now, and it's nice to be able to chat to people with different topics and different channels. So check that out if you haven't already. And you could also leave us a review on any podcast catcher that you use, and if I see it, I'll read it out. And if I don't see it, please let me know. Send me a Twitter tweet or an email or something so I can find it and give it a read out. And of course, thank you. Oh no, that's not thank you. You can donate to our Patreon, which linked is little. And I was doing so well.
I'm sorry.
I was doing so well reading out the outro.
You got it.
I was doing so well. I got it. You can donate to the Patreon, and that's linked in the description from as little as $1 a month, and that gets you access to the Patreon-only areas of our Discord server, but there are higher-level small rewards, such as unedited and early episodes, notes, and more, so check that out. And that's how I got confused. I usually say, so check that out if you haven't already, at the end of the Patreon part, and then my brain autocomplete gremlin went like, and now you thank the Patreon supporters, not just like, and now you talk about Patreon. Alright, let's go. I've solved the brain blip that just happened. So, of course, thank you to our current supporters on Patreon. Joe, Stephen Reeves, who is Wild164 on Archive Our Own. Kadawashi, Chisai, who can follow on Twitter at Chisai236. Neobu, who says you should follow Chisai on Twitter at Chisai236. Kyle, Lismet, who is Elecmon on Tumblr. Nicholas, Sam, Emery.
Who, real quick, I need to shout out for making the commission that I gave to Quinn for Christmas. She loved it, and we're going to go looking for a frame for it in the next few days and actually get it printed and hung. So I'll post a picture of that probably on Discord once we've got it. But in the meantime, just so y'all have an idea, it is all of the Sistermons in one place in glorious HD for the first time, inviting Jellymon with them, Mean Girls Get In Loser We're Going shopping style. I love that. It's pretty excellent. I will make sure to post a picture on Discord once it's done. So thanks again to Emery for that. It was excellent. Thank you.
And of course, Emery has a Hunter x Hunter rewatch podcast, which is called Gone Will Hunting. Still fantastic name. We also have Magnus, Lucas, JSimon05, Patrick, Jason Gray Tanuki, J. David, Shelby, Digital Hazard, who is on Twitch at The Digital Hazard, Dedicated Ghazi, El Lemist, and Michael, and I probably mispronounced El Leminist and I probably did it again just then because my tongue is kind of falling out of my mouth. I'm very tired. So you can also make a one donation on PayPal, which can also be found linked in the description. It's paypal.me/airdramon, and you can also donate to me on my coffee account, ko-fi.com/airdra. And we finally did, and I feel like that's the longest recording we've had for a while. So that's exciting.
We made it a short one.
I said to make it a quote-unquote long one, but we ended up making a quote-unquote short one. Yeah. So, or actually, rather, just a regular long one. But in any case, that was our thoughts on episode 12. Let us know what you thought in the comments, and we'll have a chat about it. And we will see you on the next one.
Bye.
And I didn't realise before we bye, thank you so much for listening, and thank you to Chloe for joining me. See, my brain is frazzled. It's the holidays.
There you go.
So, Chloe, where can we find you?
In the miasma.
In the miasma.
Probably.
Disintegrating into the miasma, as always.
With any luck.
But now that with any luck, fingers crossed. But now that I've said thank you to Jarl and thank you to Chloe for joining me, now we can say goodbye. So we will see you on the next one.
Bye.